October 26, 2025, 2:10 p.m. Caribbean time. Two Venezuelan Su-30 fighter jets have just crossed the red line. Four Kh-31 hypersonic missiles scream toward a single target. The USS Thomas Hudner, a $2 billion destroyer. 300 sailors on board. 20 minutes to decide if they live or die. This is not a drill. The story begins 350 kilometers above Earth. In the cold vacuum of space, a Kh-11 reconnaissance satellite orbits in complete silence. This technological eye can read license plates from orbit, can identify weapon types from the edge of space. Right now, it watches La Orchila Air Base in Venezuela. The images stream back to command centers in real time. Two Su-30 Mk2 flanker G fighters roll onto the runway, each powered by twin AL-31FP engines. These are not regular patrols. Under their wings hang weapons that change everything. Kh-31 supersonic anti-ship missiles, Russian-made, designed for one purpose: killing warships protected by advanced defense systems. Venezuela believes it holds the advantage. Political tensions in the Caribbean have been building for months. Freedom of navigation patrols by U.S. Navy ships have irritated the Venezuelan government. They see an opportunity, a chance to humiliate the world's most powerful military, to prove their sovereignty, to show strength in their own backyard. The plan is simple. Launch a surprise attack, overwhelm the American ship's defenses, create an international incident that shifts the power balance. But what Venezuela doesn't know is that surprise stopped existing the moment those Su-30s started their pre-flight checks. The USS Thomas Hudner patrols in international waters. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, not just steel and weapons. A floating command center equipped with the Aegis Combat System, the most sophisticated naval defense network ever created. The mission that day was routine. Freedom of navigation patrol, ensuring sea lanes remain open for commercial traffic. Standard operation. But the U.S. Navy never operates blind. 500 kilometers away, an E-2D Hawkeye command and early warning aircraft circles at altitude. A massive radar dish rotates on its back, spinning, scanning, watching everything. The Hawkeye detected those Su-30s the moment their wheels left the tarmac, tracked their flight path, confirmed their altitude, identified their weapons load. All of this before the Hudner's own radar even painted them. At 2:10 p.m., the Venezuelan pilots received their orders. Arm weapon systems. Proceed to engagement zone. Test the Americans. The Su-30s accelerate, climbing to attack altitude. Their radar warning receivers scan for threats. They fly in tight formation, professional, disciplined. These are experienced pilots, not rookies. They know their aircraft, know their weapons. The Kh-31 missiles under their wings represent the cutting edge of Soviet-era anti-ship technology. Each missile weighs 610 kilograms, measures nearly 5 meters long, carries a 110-kilogram high-explosive warhead. But the real danger is the speed. Mach 3.5 at sea level. That's 1/200 meters per second. Faster than most defense systems can react. The missiles use active radar homing. They find targets on their own. Lock on, dive in. The sea-skimming flight profile makes them nearly invisible to radar until the final seconds. Inside the Combat Information Center of the Hudner, dozens of screens glow in the dim light. The CIC is the brain of the ship. Walls covered in displays showing radar feeds, weapon status, threat analysis. The AN-SPY 1D radar array continuously sweeps the sky, creating an invisible dome of electronic awareness stretching over 300 kilometers. Every aircraft, every ship, every weather pattern, all tracked simultaneously. The system processes millions of data points per second. At 2:14 p.m., two contacts appear on the tactical display. Bearing 090 degrees, distance 50 nautical miles. Flying low, fast, attack formation. The combat systems coordinator studies the data. The IFF interrogator sends out electronic queries. No response. The transponders on those aircraft remain silent, not transmitting civilian codes, not responding to military challenges. The SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite activates automatically. Antennas across the ship's superstructure listen to the electromagnetic spectrum. They detect radar emissions from the approaching aircraft. The system's computer library compares the signals against known threats. Match found. Russian Enzo-01 VIP radar, standard equipment on Su-30 Mk2 fighters. But there's more. The aircraft are not in search mode. They've switched to targeting mode. Their fire control radars are active, scanning, looking for something specific. Looking for a warship. The tactical action officer's voice cuts through the quiet. Identity confirmed. Two Venezuelan Su-30s armed with KH-31P anti-ship missiles. The P designation means one specific thing. These missiles are designed to kill ships equipped with Aegis systems. To penetrate exactly the defenses that protect the Hudner, the Venezuelan pilots reach their launch point, 45 kilometers from the American destroyer, well outside the ship's air defense envelope. Or so they believe. The lead pilot's targeting computer shows a solid lock. His weapons officer confirms. Target acquired. Lock tone steady. Fire control solution ready. No warning has been broadcast. No attempt at communication. The decision has already been made at command level. Launch authorization granted. The pilot's thumb moves to the weapon release. He presses twice. Two KH-31 missiles drop from the rails under his wings. Their solid-fuel rocket motors ignite instantly. White exhaust trails streak across the sky. The missiles accelerate rapidly. Within seconds, they're supersonic. The wingman follows the same procedure. Two more missiles launched. Four Russian-made anti-ship weapons now racing toward the Hudner at over a kilometer per second. Inside the CIC, the alarm sounds. Not a drill tone. The real thing, sharp, insistent, impossible to ignore. On every screen, red icons appear. Vampire. Vampire. 4 inbound missiles. The code word that means only one thing. Anti-ship missiles inbound. Not a simulation. Not an exercise. Real weapons carrying real warheads. The combat systems coordinator doesn't hesitate. His training takes over. Thousands of hours of drills reduce the decision to pure reflex. He keys the ship-wide announcing system. His voice is cold, precise, emotion stripped away. General quarters. General quarters. All hands man your battle stations. This is not a drill. Inbound anti-ship missiles. Throughout the ship, sailors sprint to their stations. Watertight doors slam shut. Damage control teams grab equipment. The ship transforms from a patrol vessel into a warship in combat mode. The Aegis system has already begun its response. The central computer processes the threat data in microseconds. 4 missiles. Speed Mach 3.5, time to impact. 90 seconds. The system runs through engagement protocols automatically. Calculates intercept points. Assigns weapons. Prioritizes targets. All of this happens faster than any human could react. The system was designed for exactly this scenario. Multiple simultaneous threats. Supersonic speed. See skimming profile. The first defensive layer activates without any human input. The SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite shifts from passive listening to active jamming. It records the active radar signals being transmitted by the KH-31's seeker heads. These signals are hunting for the ship, trying to maintain lock. The SLQ-32 captures those signals, analyzes their frequency, their pulse pattern, their modulation. Then it broadcasts back, but these aren't the original signals. The system has altered them, subtly, introducing false Doppler shifts. Fake range data. The goal is simple but brilliant. Make the missile's brain think the ship is somewhere else. 500 meters to the left, or right, or ahead. Anywhere except where it actually is. At the same time, the Mark 36 SRBOC launchers fire. 6-barreled mortars mounted on the ship's deck. They launch salvos of chaff cartridges. Each cartridge explodes at altitude, releasing clouds of aluminum-coated fiberglass. These clouds create massive radar returns, false targets that look exactly like a destroyer to the incoming missile seekers. Simultaneously, high-temperature flares ignite, creating thermal signatures that blind infrared sensors. The ocean around the Hudner suddenly contains dozens of false targets, all screaming the same thing to the missile seekers. Here, I'm here. Target me. The result is immediate. The first KH-31 missile loses its lock. Its seeker head switches between targets. The false radar returns look real, sound real. The missile's computer can't distinguish between decoy and actual ship. It makes a choice, locks onto a chaff cloud. The missile banks hard, turning away from the real target, chasing a ghost. Seconds later, it plunges into the ocean. Empty water. No explosion, no damage. Just a 6-10-kilogram missile sinking to the bottom. $4 million of Venezuelan military hardware neutralized without firing a single live round. But the second missile is different. More sophisticated programming, better filtering algorithms. It's affected by the jamming but not destroyed. The missile wastes energy, burns fuel chasing false locks, loses about 20% of its kinetic advantage. But it's still there, still tracking, still deadly. The missile crosses the 30-kilometer mark. At Mach 3.5, that's 25 seconds to impact. The tactical action officer makes the call. His voice carries no emotion, just cold calculation. Confirm SM-6 launch. Engage designated target. On the forward deck, hatches blow open on the Mark 41 vertical launch system. Inside, a Standard Missile 6 sits in its cell. $4 million of American engineering. The missile weighs 2,500 kilograms, measures 6 meters long, carries no warhead. It doesn't need one. At the speeds involved, kinetic energy alone is enough to vaporize targets. The solid fuel rocket motor ignites. Massive thrust launches the missile vertically out of its cell. It climbs rapidly, reaching altitudes over 30 kilometers. The missile's active radar seeker activates, scanning, hunting, data link. Updates from the Aegis system guide it toward the intercept point. The SM-6 represents the peak of missile defense technology. Unlike older systems that follow ballistic paths, the SM-6 can maneuver throughout its flight. Course corrections, altitude changes, speed adjustments, all controlled by the missile's own computer and guidance from the ship. At 20 kilometers from the Hudner, the SM-6 completes its climb. Now it dives. Nearly vertical descent, the missile accelerates past Mach 3.5. The active seeker locks onto the incoming KH-31. Two supersonic weapons closing at combined speeds, exceeding Mach 7, over 2,000 meters per second of closure rate. The mathematics are brutal. The intercept window measures in microseconds. There is no room for error, no second chance. Either the missiles collide or the KH-31 reaches the ship. They collide. The impact occurs at 15 kilometers from the Hudner. The kinetic energy release is enormous. Both missiles simply vaporize. Metal turns to plasma. Components shatter into molecular fragments. A massive fireball blooms in the sky. Gray smoke expands rapidly. Debris rains into the ocean. The threat is eliminated. A $4 million interceptor just saved a $2 billion warship and 300 lives. In the CIC, there's no celebration, no cheers. The screens show the engagement result. Target destroyed. But everyone knows this isn't over. Two Su-30 still fly in the area. They still carry weapons. The question isn't if they'll attack again. The question is when. The answer comes seconds later. The Venezuelan pilots have been watching. They saw their first salvo fail, saw one missile deceived, another destroyed. They should withdraw, report failure, return to base. But orders are orders. Political pressure demands results. They must prove Venezuelan capability, must challenge American dominance. The pilots make their decision, taking advantage of the chaos from the first engagement. The electronic jamming, the massive explosion of the SM-6 intercept, all of this creates momentary confusion in the electromagnetic spectrum. They use it as cover. Launch authorization granted again. The pilots press their weapon release. Two more KH-31 missiles drop from the rails. Rocket motors ignite. 4 missiles total now eliminated. 2 more in the air, racing toward the Hudner at impossible speeds. But this time, the geometry is different. The first engagement occurred at range, gave the defense systems time to respond. This second salvo launches closer. The missiles slip through the long-range defensive network. They're now inside the minimum engagement range of the SM-6, only 15 kilometers away. At Mach 3.5, that's 12 seconds to impact. There's no time for another SM-6 launch. The missiles need time to exit their cells, time to climb, time to maneuver. None of that exists now. These KH-31s have penetrated deep into the Hudner's defensive envelope. They're entering the ideal kill zone of the next layer. The medium-range guard, the evolved Sea Sparrow missile. The ESSM different hatches blow open on the VLS cells. But this time, something different emerges. Each cell doesn't contain one large missile. Each cell contains 4 smaller missiles, quad-packed, dense firepower, designed specifically for this scenario. Close-range threats, multiple simultaneous targets, high-speed intercepts. 4 ESSMs launch almost simultaneously. White smoke trails arc across the sky. The sound is continuous. Not individual launches, but a sustained roar. The ESSM is a monster of agility. Smaller than the SM-6, lighter, faster reacting, top speed of Mach 4, can pull maneuvers up to 50 G-forces. Has thrust vectoring nozzles that gimbal the rocket exhaust, essentially an unmanned fighter jet in missile form. The missiles don't need continuous guidance from the ship. They have semi-active radar seekers. They can receive mid-course updates via data link. But they can also hunt autonomously. The first ESSM locks onto the third KH-31. The 2 missiles close at a combined speed exceeding Mach 7. The ESSM's thrust vectoring activates. Tiny course corrections every microsecond. Reacting to the target's evasive maneuvers, the KH-31 is programmed to jink, to dodge, to make itself harder to hit. But the ESSM matches every movement. The intercept is swift, clean, direct hit. The ESSM's fragmentation warhead detonates. Thousands of tungsten pellets shred the KH-31. The missile disintegrates in a shockwave explosion. Metal fragments rain into the sea. The fourth KH-31 faces the same fate. Another ESSM locks on, closes, but this intercept is different. The warhead detonates slightly off target, close enough to damage but not destroy. The KH-31 seeker head shatters. Guidance fins rip away. Control systems fail. But the missile body remains intact. A 10-kilogram projectile still hurtling toward the ship at over a kilometer per second. No guidance, no control, just momentum and mass. A ballistic threat. It's no longer a smart weapon, but it's still deadly. 5 kilometers away. 5 seconds to impact. 4 seconds. 3 seconds! The final defensive layer activates the Close-In Weapon System, CIWS, pronounced CIWS by the sailors. The last line of defense, the steel wall. The CIWS is a completely autonomous system. Its own search radar, its own tracking radar, its own fire control computer. Independent from the Aegis network, designed to operate even if every other system on the ship fails. The white dome on the forward superstructure rotates. Inside is a 6-barrel M61 Vulcan Gatling gun, 20 mm, the same gun that arms F-16 fighters, but this one is modified for naval use, mounted on a stabilized platform. Fed by a magazine holding 1,550 rounds, capable of firing 4,500 rounds per minute, the CIWS radar locks onto the tumbling KH-31 fragment. The fire control computer calculates a firing solution in milliseconds. Lead angle, projectile drop, wind compensation. All factors processed. The solution locks. The command fires. The 6 barrels begin to spin. Faster, faster. They reach firing speed. Then the gun opens up. The sound is unlike anything else. Not individual shots. A continuous roar, like tearing metal, like a chainsaw cutting steel. The barrels blur into a circle. Muzzle flashes merge into a constant flame. The rate of fire is so high that individual reports can't be distinguished. Just one long, sustained burst. The CIWS doesn't fire explosive rounds. No tracers. No incendiary mix. Just solid tungsten penetrators. Armor-piercing. Extremely dense. Extremely hard. Each round weighs about 100 grams. Leaves the barrel at 100 meters per second. The gun fires a stream of tungsten directly into the path of the incoming missile fragment. The fragment hits the stream. Dozens of impacts. Maybe hundreds. The math is simple. Tungsten versus aluminum. Tungsten wins. The missile body begins to disintegrate. Not an explosion, just mechanical destruction. The structure tears apart. The warhead casing ruptures. High explosive scatters but doesn't detonate. Just spreads across the ocean. The fuel tank shreds. Propellant sprays into the air. What was a 10-kilogram weapon becomes a cloud of increasingly smaller fragments. None larger than a fist. All of them harmless. The fragments splash into the ocean. 300 meters from the ship. Close enough to see, close enough to hear, but not close enough to damage. The CIWS stops firing. The barrels slow. Stop spinning! Smoke drifts from the muzzle. The gun swivels back to neutral position. Ready, waiting. The entire engagement from detection to neutralization lasted 2.3 seconds. In the CIC, silence fills the space. The tactical display clears. Seconds ago it showed red enemy icons, missile trajectories, intercept vectors. Now it's blank, clean, 4 modern Russian-made anti-ship missiles. The pride of the Venezuelan Air Force, now just debris scattered across the ocean floor. Useless metal. The 2 Su-30s turn hard, banking away, running for Venezuelan airspace. Their mission failed, their weapons expended, their challenge answered. The entire chain of destruction from first missile detection to final fragment neutralization lasted less than 90 seconds. 90 seconds of pure technological warfare, of systems operating at the edge of physics, of human training combined with machine precision. The USS Thomas Hudner sits unscathed. Not a single hit, not a scratch, not even close. Every defensive layer performed exactly as designed. Electronic warfare deceived 1 missile, long-range interceptors destroyed 1. Medium-range missiles eliminated 2. Close-in weapons shredded the final threat. 5 layers of defense, all tested, all successful. Perfect score. This was more than just a successful defense. The message transmitted to Caracas is crystal clear, transmitted to any other nation watching through reconnaissance satellites, through signals intelligence, through radar recordings. Challenging the US Navy in international waters is not an act of war. It's military suicide. The technology gap is not small. It's enormous, overwhelming, insurmountable. The Venezuelan military just learned a lesson written in missile smoke and radar data. Superior technology combined with relentless training creates a wall that cannot be penetrated by legacy systems. No matter how well flown, no matter how courageously attempted, the sailors aboard the Hudner performed their duties with cold professionalism. No panic, no mistakes. Just execution of procedures drilled into them through tens of thousands of hours of training. Simulator runs, live-fire exercises, tabletop discussions, emergency drills, all of it coming together in 90 seconds of real combat. This is what separates professional militaries from ambitious ones. Not courage, not determination, but preparation, training, investment in systems that work. Investment in people who can operate them under pressure. The Aegis Combat System cost billions to develop, years to perfect. But in 90 seconds it justified every dollar, every hour, every compromise. As the USS Thomas Hudner continues its patrol, the Caribbean Sea returns to calm. The surface gives no indication of what just occurred. No debris floating, no oil slicks. Just blue water under blue sky. Peaceful, quiet. But beneath that calm surface lies evidence. Missile fragments, shattered warheads, scattered across the ocean floor. Physical proof of a test, a challenge, an answer. This was not a crisis. It was a demonstration, the US Navy scoring a perfect mark. Venezuela learning that technology cannot be substituted with boldness. That surprise is worthless against systems designed to eliminate surprise. The KH-11 satellite continues its orbit overhead. Still watching. Still recording. The E-2D Hawkeye still patrols at altitude. Still scanning. Still tracking. The Hudner's radar still sweeps the sky. Still maintaining that invisible dome of awareness. Nothing has changed. The patrol continues. The mission proceeds. Business as usual. But in command centers and defense ministries around the world, analysts review the data. Study the timeline. Analyze the engagement. The lesson is being learned. In modern warfare, never challenge those who wrote the rules of the game. Never attack those who designed the systems you're attacking with. Never assume that courage overcomes technology. It doesn't. Not anymore. Which defense layer impressed you most?